Three, two, one. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43, and tonight we are taking our very first look at the new Tier 8 Premium Battleship, the campaign ship Marlborough. One half of the campaign ships. You can get either Marlborough or Marco Polo. Today's video is going to be in Marlborough. Tomorrow's video, I'm going to try to have Marco Polo. So one of the rare times where I couldn't decide which one I wanted more, so I bought both of them. And by both of them, I mean I got this one through the campaign and I bought the Marco Polo for doubloons. So let's look at our commander. First of all, we're using Azure Lane Nelson as our commander with Scharnhorst and Paolo de Revel as our inspirations. We are running Flambeau Cannoneer, Big 7, Marksmanship, and Master Mechanic, as well as Fight Fire with Fire. Okay? Now, if you don't want to use, or if you don't have this commander, you can either use Charles Madden or Andrew Cunningham as your like free-to-play commanders. Charles Madden's going to give you an extra heal. Andrew Cunningham is going to be your dispersion build. Personally, I think going with a dispersion build on this thing probably going to be your better bet rather than going with the brawler build, because getting the most amount of shells on target is going to give you the most amount of opportunity for fire. And you do want to be using fire in this ship. The AP is good too. If you get an opportunity, especially at mid to close range, to use AP on battleships, or God help a cruiser getting on the wrong side of these 14-inch guns. But yeah, if you get a chance to shoot at a cruiser, just remember, a lot of the cruisers at high tiers, they have 27mm bows, which means you don't overmatch them. So using AP against the bow-in cruiser at higher tiers probably not going to go in your favor. So keep that in mind. However, the HE in this thing, especially with Big 7 from Azure Lane Nelson, disgusting. So with that being said, let's look at the loadout here. We are running Aiming Systems Mod 1, again trying to get a little bit of accuracy. We've got steering gears on because you want to be using your broadsides, but you got to do the Dreadnought Shuffle, and I'll explain why in a minute. You do not want to be sitting broadside for the entire game in this unless you know you're safe. Concealment System mod is a guarantee. Like, you got to have that. That allows you to move around the map relatively well. And Main Battery Mod 3 is kind of a necessity as well. Get a little bit faster reload. It does destroy your traverse. Your traverse on this is going to be awful with this build. Just throwing that out there. Your traverse is going to be terrible. But I'm telling you, it's a solid ship. All right, so obviously we got 4 heals. It's a very good heal as well, getting 1,327 hit points per second reloading, or being able to heal 1,327 hit points per second. You also get a secondary booster. There is no main battery reload booster for this, which surprised me, but at the same time, after playing it, I understand why. But we are not running a booster currently, so keep that in mind. We are running the Italian Unity flag for obvious reasons, because it kind of, if you hold your tongue just right and squint, it kind of looks like a Spartan helmet, but not really. Anyway, we're going to go with the survivability. 76,800 hit points is not terrible, but not amazing for the tier. Torpedo damage reduction, pretty decent at 28%. Not great, but not terrible. Artillery, you get 356mm 45 caliber Mark 7 quad turrets. Okay? First of all, 356mm guns, 14-inch guns. Keep that in mind. You only have 14-inch guns. So they're very small compared to everything else at the tier. However, they're pretty accurate, and they fire out to 18 kilometers, so not the best range in the world, and that's one of the limiting factors on this. So you may want to pop that epic booster on there for a little bit extra range. But the reload, 20.8 seconds. That's pretty nasty. That's spicy. 16 shells every 20 seconds. Well, 21 seconds. Spicy. That's 2 Jean Barts every 20 seconds. 21 seconds. So 180 degree turn time, again with this build, it's terrible. 46 seconds, not ideal, but HE shell maximum damage is 6,148 with this build, and it's got a 24% chance to set fires. Not the best fire chance in the world, but when you've got accuracy by volume going out, remember, you're throwing 16 rounds downrange. One of those is going to set a fire. Usually more than one of them will set a fire. AP shell maximum damage is 12,760. Again, showing that even for 14-inch guns, these things, if you give this thing a broadside, will slap the out of you. And remember, there's 16 rounds coming at you. So do not give this thing a broadside unless you want to get blapped. Trust me. As we saw in the Ruprecht video, it is fully capable of slapping you with AP if you give it a broadside. Especially at medium and short ranges. If you go broadside to this thing at medium range, you're going to get punished hard. Okay, secondaries, you get 134 millimeter 50 caliber Mark 1s. You get 16 of those, reaching out to 5.2 kilometers, reloading in 6.7 seconds with a maximum HE shell damage of 1900 and an 8% chance to set fires. AA defense is pretty solid, as you'd expect. 40 millimeter Stogs, you get 20 of those doing 254 damage per second, reaching out to 3.5 kilometers. So not bad. Kind of a mid-range anti-air. It's not super close range. It's kind of mid-range, so that's nice. 40 millimeter Bofors Mark 6s, you get, be 9 times 6, that'd be 30. No, try it again. 48. Pardon? Yeah. I think. Anyway, 260, I'm probably wrong. Somebody's going to laugh at my math. Anyway, 263 damage per second, reaching out to another 3.5 kilometers. And then you have the 134 millimeter 50 caliber Mark 1 secondaries. You get 16 of, doing 68 damage per second and reaching out to 5.2 kilometers. So overall, pretty solid AA. Not the best AA, but pretty solid. It'll do. Okay? Maneuverability. Maximum speed is where this ship is actually pretty decent. 31.5 knots top speed. Turning circle, not the greatest, but the rudder shift with this build, because we went with steering gears, actually not bad. 860 meters with a 12.7 second rudder shift. And that 12.7 second rudder shift is nice on this ship because you need to be able to do the Dreadnought Shuffle. Concealment, 13.3 kilometers by sea, 11.1 by air. 2 is always guaranteed, and 13.5 kilometer smoke firing penalty. So it's pretty solid pretty solid concealment for a battleship. Not the best. I mean, it's not, Kansas at 12.8 or whatever Kansas gets, but it's pretty solid. And yeah, it'll allow you to get around the map, and the speed will allow you to catch people off guard, believe it or not. All right, so armor. That's where this thing has a bit of trouble. Okay, so it only has the 32 millimeter bow. Everybody knows and loves. Most of the battleships have a 32 millimeter bow at this tier. It's not that uncommon, so anything Musashi or Yami can go straight through your bow. The part that gets this thing into trouble is that it also gets absolutely annihilated with this Citadel. And I do mean that, so keep that in mind. Look at this Citadel. You thought that was armor, didn't you? You're like, oh, it's got an armor belt. No, that's your Citadel. So keep that in mind. You angle this properly or you die very quickly. Keep that in mind. Okay? So your Citadel is absolutely massive. And it's right in the center of the ship. And it's all the way up to almost the deck line. So if you go over angle or if you go broadside, you will die. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. And look how wide it is, too. That's a very wide Citadel. That means ain't nobody overpinning that Citadel. Okay? So do not, under any circumstances, assume that you're going to get away with going broadside when you know somebody's going to be shooting at you with AP. Because you won't. I promise. Now, with that being said, the armor is still decently thick there. Let's look at it. It's 381 millimeters. And so if you angle this, you're fine. It's when you over angle that you get slapped. So very, very unfortunate if you go broadside in this thing. Okay, you gotta be on your toes. All right, reloader. Above average main battery reload speed. We already talked about that. Guns aplenty. A high number of main guns. Again, 16 gun broadside is insane. You guys liked the Leon, triple Leon? Imagine triple Marlborough here. Triple Marlborough with all of the big heals that these things get would be darn near unstoppable if played correctly. Superior HE penetration. Again, that's the British thing. You got that amazing high explosive shells that are just absolutely like thermonuclear warheads coming in. And Marlborough, a variant of a battleship that retained the design features implemented in the Vanguard and King George V class ships. The ship's main armament comprises 16 356mm guns mounted in quadruple turrets. 1947 she was designed. So let's take a look at this good... I'm telling you guys, there was a reason I was leaning for Marlborough here. Because you hear everybody talk about how squishy it is. And everybody's probably thinking, well, Spartan, this is just a Tier 8 Florida. No, it's not. This thing, while it does get blapped, okay? If you are not paying attention, you will get blapped, absolutely. I concede that. However, this thing is way more accurate than a Florida. And the reload, 20.8 seconds with this build. And that ain't even maxed out. You could probably get a little bit more out of that if you wanted to. But 20.8 seconds, you get 16 shells down range with HE that's going to be doing A, damage, and B, fires. This is nasty. I'm telling you. Don't sleep on this thing. And I already said, don't sleep on the AP. If this thing gets a broadside and has AP loaded, God help who's on the other end, because that's a lot of shells going down range. Okay? So, with that, let's take a look at it. I mean, it's a fairly modern-looking battleship. Kind of reminds you of Vanguard, or King George, which, I mean, it is essentially a Tier 8 King George. But overall, I like this ship so far. I've played a few games in it, and so far I've had 2 really, really good ones, which you guys will get to see in the video. And speaking of which, with that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Hotspot. And we're in the Marlborough, and we're going to showcase 2 videos for you guys of the Marlborough in action and just how nasty this thing actually is. Now, I've heard a lot of bad things about this. I've said a lot of bad things about this. It is a glass cannon. We know that. But I'm telling you, of the 2 choices so far, this was the one that I was actually most interested in. So this was the one that I actually picked up through the campaign, and then I went ahead and bought the Marco Polo as well, because I thought you guys would like to see my thoughts on that ship as well, especially considering we just did the path to the Italian battleships. So you guys will have to let me know what you guys think, but I promise you guys, you're in for a treat. These 2 games are going to be fantastic showcases of just how nasty these little 14-inch guns can be. And if you play the ship correctly, it's very difficult to get rid of. So right off the bat, we've got a Republique broadside. We take the 14-inch guns, all of the HE, and notice that the dispersion on that is almost solely horizontal. That is going to be a theme for this particular ship. All of the dispersion that you get, it's almost always horizontal. Now, this is a very good thing when you're shooting at a broadside ship. It's a very bad thing when you're shooting at somebody who's bow in. However, even when they're bow in, this thing is accurate enough most of the time that they're going to be able to stack multiple shells on target and get those fires that you love, as well as get those penetrations from that HE that we love out of British battleships. Now, the AP you cannot sleep on, okay? The AP will slap the crap out of you if you get a broadside. And we're going to showcase a little bit of that in this match as well as the next match if we get a chance. But look at the damage from the HE. Like, why would you ever need to switch to AP? Most of the time, the HE is going to be good enough that you don't actually need to switch. Now, Ruprecht comes into play, so we're like, okay, well, let's just spread the love. Now, the Roma put out a single fire, so we got a perma-fire on him, and then he immediately takes a torpedo, so he's a dead man. There's no surviving that. That's why you don't put out a single fire, especially early in the match, because now you're burning multiple times, you've got fires, you've got floods, and you're dead. Literally dead. 2.5 minutes into the game. 2 minutes and 15 seconds into the game. The guy went from full health to dead. Speaking full health to dead, our Brandenburg just got killed by the enemy Z. Which is not ideal. But we take a broadside shot at the Marlborough. He slows down a little bit, turns in, so we only get 3 hits on him. Does a little bit of damage, but not a whole lot. I switch over to AP because I was hoping that the Marlborough was going to stay broadside. But look at him on the map. You'll see that he's actually turning towards us. So, unfortunately, we're not going to get the shot that we were looking for. So we're going to test trying to hit the superstructure of the Ruprecht. He is angled slightly here. And you can see we're not getting a lot of shells over the island, unfortunately. The rear guns should have a little bit better luck going over the island, but we're still going to lose a couple of those shells, and we're not going to get a whole lot of damage out of it. But we do switch over to the HE and get ready once again to see if we can't get some shots out on maybe the Marlborough if he gets spotted again. Now, I will give a shout out to the guy behind me in the mines. Our destroyer that went in and captured the base early, big ups to him, but he's not long for this world. Or at least not on this side of the map. But we have the Republic out here on the edge. We have a mines behind us. Between me and the mines, these guys have no chance. Like, there's so much HE coming their way that they are not going to survive this. Now, we get a shot out. Obviously, this is going to be a good one. Not a lot of damage. We managed to hit 4 shells, no fires. I'm not sure if he had a damage con going or what, but didn't manage to get a fire either way. And now he's going to turn back away from us and go full broadside. So we take this shot, we immediately switch over to AP. I say immediately, it did have a little bit of a delay, but we switch over to the AP because we recognize he's about to give us a freaking broadside. And there's 14,000 damage plus a double fire, and that is a perma double fire. And he's going broadside, so we get to test out the AP, and I'm going to show you just how nasty the AP can be if you're dumb enough to go broadside to this thing. We take the shot, and of course you can see Marlborough is pushing into the cap as well. And so our destroyer has been absolutely eliminated. But look, I mean, another solid hit, six penetrations, 3 full pins, 3 over pins, and we're over 100,000 damage just like that. We managed to angle ourselves and turn away. We take 0 damage from the Republic in return. He has put out the fires, so it's time to restart those barbecues. And between me and the main, we're not going to struggle to set this man back on fire. And I'm fairly confident the mines actually sets him on fire immediately. You can see he's already burning, and it wasn't us that actually set the fire. But anyway, Republic's going to be out there, and he's going to be dead. Now, if there's one thing, one critique that I would say about this mines, and I'm not doing this to be mean or anything. The mines plays incredibly well during this match, and he does a great job of helping us. You can see I actually burned a heal here. I didn't anticipate needing, you know, maximum heals in this one, so burning a heal early to get another heal ready to go quickly, I think was the right call. But if there's anything that I could say is that this mines needs to recognize when a guy's going to die. That Republic was going to die no matter what, but he manages to kill him just in time for the Ruprecht to come out here. And between me and the mines, once again, we're going to be able to finish off this Ruprecht much quicker. And then I think I load up the AP after firing another shot of HE at the Ruprecht here, because the Marlborough gets spotted and he is full broadside, and I start salivating. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead. I may end up taking Torp here, but we can heal it. We got our damage. Well, I say we got our damage cons. We don't have our damage con anymore, so let's not take those Torps, preferably. But you can see I'm loading up the AP. I'm ready to smash this Marlborough. And what happens next is Marlborough is not an idiot. He's like, okay, I know I'm dangerous here. This guy loads AP. I'm going to get dev struck. So he actually turns away. And then he double fires me with his HE. And you can see I check, he's turning away, so we go ahead and switch over to shooting at guns and superstructure on the Ruprecht. And you can see we managed to shred his superstructure pretty well. And between me and the mines, he goes down pretty easily. Now, moving back over to the Marlborough, you can see, look how nasty that heal is. It's just like the rest of those British super heals, man. It is a nasty heal if you allow it to be. And you can see we're only 20 seconds away from reprinting our ship again. And that's why I wanted to trigger that heal early, because then I can get back into having another heal. And we've basically lost no real health in these engagements. Now, here is where I will say that the mines screws up. The mines should not have engaged this Marlborough. Leave me the Marlborough and deal with the destroyer behind me. What he ends up doing is he puts himself in a situation where he's going to get killed by the Marlborough, and then the destroyer and I are going to have to fight each other. And that's a situation that most battleships are not going to win that engagement. But you can see Marlborough takes down the mines, and that leaves me 1v1 with a ZF6. Now, ZF6, not the scariest destroyer to go up against as a battleship. However, you don't want to leave your battleship in that situation. If you know you're probably going to die, try to take the destroyer with you. You can't get tunnel visioned on the battleship there. He didn't need to shoot that battleship at all because, I mean, he knows me. He sent me a message after the fact, said, "Hey, was that actually you?" And I was like, "Yep, that was me." He clearly knows who I am. He knows that I can handle myself in a 1v1 situation versus another battleship, especially a battleship that's the same one. So you gotta assume that I can hold my own there. And I understand wanting to help, but at the same time, his best bet would have been to break off and go after that destroyer, and he would have probably lived because the Marlborough would have not seen him as a threat or an easy kill, and he would probably went for me instead. But, you know, again, I'm not doing this. Is just nitpicking. In case the guy wants to know, you know, a little bit of difference. He played really well, and I'm not saying that he didn't. I'm just saying in that situation, that's what I would have done. You know, just something a little bit different. Get rid of the little turds that nobody can see, right? They are the bigger threat in the game. Battleships, you can kill battleships at any time. But destroyers, when you get those opportunities, you got to take them. And I couldn't turn, obviously, to do that. So it's up to him as the agile cruiser with the DPM and the long-range sonar and, the, you know, to be able to counter those destroyers. And you can see the destroyer, the Udachi gets me spotted, and the Z is behind the island to my right, so he manages to shoot over the island and reset the cap. Great play by him, but now that I know where he's at, now I can counter him a little bit better. So you can see, rather than turning my turrets, because I know my turrets turn so slowly on this ship, rather than turning my turrets, I turn my ship all the way around. I can actually turn this ship all the way back around before I could have gotten my turrets on the other side of the ship. Now, the Z makes a critical error here. He sits here assuming that he's going to be able to just torp me willy-nilly. I don't know if he doesn't recognize that I've played pretty well up to this point and that I'm not just your average battleship captain, but he banks on the fact that he's going to be able to kill me before I reach him. And what he doesn't realize is that I'm not an idiot. And we are able to easily dodge these torpedoes because, you know, steering gears, I love them. Like, a lot of people give me crap for running steering gears over propulsion mod. And yeah, there is a few situations here and there that propulsion mod would come in handy for me. But more often than not, I much rather have steering gears and being able to change direction a little bit quicker than everybody else. Because it comes in handy. All the destroyer torpedoes, the fire spam that's out there. Here we pick up our base cap, and we're charging the smoke screen. Now, the destroyer actually makes the right call here. He's not sitting in his smoke screen because we'd already seen him. He's actually trying to disengage. He knows that I'm coming. And when I get into the smoke screen here, he's actually going to drop more RPF torpedoes in here. What he's doing is he's trying to launch the torps at my located, you know. He gets the RPF, kind of gives him an idea of where I'm at. But he's launching too far behind. He knows the direction I'm going, so he should be launching out ahead. And here we get a full broadside away, and we overshot just a little bit. He kind of juked us out a little bit. This next shot's actually going to be baffling how bad it is, but you can see we already took over half his health. He got very lucky to not be dev struck. He's doing everything he can to wiggle. He already damage conned. Our secondaries hit cause a fire as well. And then we unload into him, and yeah, we managed to get in caps and no real damage. I don't know how. This man just gets lucky, I guess. But unfortunately for him, his luck is about to run out. He's not going to be able to disengage. I'm fast enough to keep up with him. While he is gaining away from us, he's still on fire, which means his detection is higher, and he's just not going to be able to disengage. And you can only juke so much when it only takes a couple of rounds to finish you off. And we hit him with 5 rounds that time. He was done. Nothing he could do there. And that just leaves one battleship left to be finished off on the far side, and our team is going to be able to pull this win. So, in our first game here, you guys can see, like, this thing can handle its own. Even against very good battleships at the tier, as long as you use your brain, you will be fine. I know it's a rough concept for a lot of folks out there to use your brain when you're in these engagements, but I promise you, learn the Dreadnought Shuffle. Learn. Time the enemy shots, stay bow in when they shoot, fire your front guns, and then swing the rear out and fire the rear guns when you're safe. 150,000 damage, top of the leaderboard, 2,700 base XP, 2 kills. Zombie in the mines, again, great game by him, supporting me on that side. And again, I wasn't pointing that out to be a jerk or anything like that. I'm just saying in that situation, what I would have done differently if I was him. Now, here, we're going to showcase a little bit more of this map is basically made for this ship. Or this ship is made for this map. It's got a lot of island cover that allows you to pop in and out of existence. It's got all of the guns, and we are going to absolutely torture the enemy team. And I do mean torch in the torture. I'm going to literally put the torch in torture. We are going to move around this map, and we are going to annihilate everything, and it is just going to be an HE fest. Now, we do have AP that we do load later in the game, but for the most part, it's going to be an HE fest. And that's what these ships are known for. That's what they do. That's what they are best at. They are best at giving you the flexibility of moving around the map. The mobility of these ships, being able to do 30 knots plus, is very, very nice. And then, of course, you got the accuracy by volume, and the fact that you're almost guaranteed to get at least one fire every time you fire. Pretty much. Not guaranteed, but pretty close. So don't be fooled by the low fire chance for a battleship, because you're sending 16 rounds downrange. Some of those are going to cause a fire. It's just the way it goes. Now here, we get spotted very early. It's a 4-destroyer game, but we are going to have 2 very, very good destroyer players on our right side, just out in front of us, and they're going to do a very good job of countering those destroyers. Now here, I'm waiting for this Georgia to come into my range here, and he's just kind of playing around with it, so I'm like, screw it. Even though he's out of my range, he's coming towards me. I want to make sure I get the shot away and then turn away. He's clearly shooting at me, so I don't want to take any damage if I don't have to. And you can see, turning away, we managed to get out of there, and we set a fire on the Georgia. Now, the good thing about setting a single fire at the beginning of a game is most people will let that burn, because they know that if they put out a single fire, just like in the Roma, you're going to end up dead very, very quickly. Early in the match, you're guaranteed to be set back on fire. Like, you cannot afford it early in the match. Later in the match, you can kind of weigh your options and see if you can get away with it. But early in the match, you're almost guaranteed to be immediately set back on fire if you damage con a single fire. And then we won't even talk about the torpedoes here. Speaking of torpedoes, Georgia's about to take a torpedo hit. You can see the one torpedo is tracking, and watch me cue in on it. See it? And he goes dark, and it hits and explodes. And we send a round down range. Now, that torpedo hit means that he likely just got flooded, and so he's going to damage con it. Look at it, we're not getting any more fire damage, so he did damage con that. That first shot was while his damage con invulnerability period was still active. So we go ahead and we line up the next shot, and we know that this next shot should cause a perma fire. At least one, anyway. And sure enough, we land a hit, and we get the perma fire. 6 full pins with the HE. And you can see the damage that it's doing. And there, our teammates managed to take out the other destroyer. So they are down 2 destroyers already. Their Georgia is dying very quickly. And then this poor Georgia is, like, his battle is almost over. He just doesn't know it yet. We come around the corner. Obviously, we're spotted again. There is another destroyer over here. 3 of their 4 destroyers was on this side of the map. So we take another shot, and we're going to double fire him in this salvo, meaning he's got 3 fires burning, which tells us, A, he's not running fight fire with fire, which is pretty normal for American battleships. He runs, will to rebuild most likely. So unfortunately for him, he's a dead man. It's just a matter of time. But he does manage to get a damage comeback just in time to save him from immediately dying from our triple fire. And that's when we go ahead and shoot back at him, and you can see the dispersion is not great there, but the dispersion from the rear gun is going to be much, much better. And unfortunately for this Georgia, that's going to seal his fate, because, oh, never mind, I lied, it split him. Front guns! Here we get very lucky. The shells that managed to hit us, we got very, very lucky. He only hit us with a single shell, and it was not a Citadel. He only got 5,000 damage out of it. But we do get a perma-fire back on him again. That seals his fate. He is going to die. There's nobody around to will to rebuild him that we know of. You can see the torpedoes coming our direction from the destroyer, so he's not there to will to rebuild the guy. And the Bismarck actually manages to yoink our kill and take out the Georgia. Now, we have a broadside look at a repub here, and we've already seen what what these shells can do to a repub, so we're going to go ahead and just, you know, punish him. There's no other word for it. It's just punishing him. I'm going to call this thing the Ghost Rider, because that's what this thing is. Literally a Ghost Rider. It just comes out, it sets everything on fire, and it just does not die. 2 kills, or two fires, and now the Hayate is spotted, so we want to take a chance to try to remove the Hayate. He kills our Palo, and so we line him up, and we are going to absolutely ruin him here, breaking his propulsion, breaking a torpedo, and then he immediately gets finished off by the friendly Hayate. Now, Repub is still burning from our last salvo, so we're going to go ahead and turn our attention back to him. Aim high. We don't want to hit the belt if we can avoid it. We want to hit up on the upper side plating and into the superstructure if at all possible, because we want to get the maximum amount of damage out of these. We don't want to shatter. We want to pin those HE rounds. That's how you get the damage out of the HE. And sure enough, we hit him again. I mean, look at the damage we're doing. Like, front guns, we did like 10,000 damage. Rear guns, we did almost 10,000 damage. We did basically 20,000 damage in that last salvo. And we're just staggering our shots. The Repub has given up shooting at us. He recognizes that we are actively dodging or angling, so he just stopped shooting at us. And that's where these ships are so freaking dangerous. If you just get to a point where, like, the enemy doesn't want to shoot at you, the amount of damage you can stack up in the Conqueror, the Temeraire, the Marlborough, the Vanguard, the King George, it's actually insane. Because they all have really decent reloads. They have heals that just refuse to let them die. And, you know, you can see Repub's about to die here. And our fire should kill him here. Yep, there he goes, giving us our first kill. We've got 127,000 damage. We haven't had a lot to shoot at. We've had two battleships to shoot at. We've got 127,000 damage. That's not bad. Now here you can see Massachusetts is here, and he's reversing towards us. And at this point I'm thinking, I want to test out the AP on the broadside of a Mass. Because he's reversing, he's basically flat broadside to us. I mean, if you look at the mini-map, he's basically flat broadside. And you can see I'm contemplating it, and there I hit the button to switch ammo. We know we only got a 20-second reload, so it's not that big a deal. In this situation, there's nothing to shoot us, so we might as well just go ahead and switch and see what we can get with the AP. The only thing that I wish I had done here is actually waited, because this guy was going to reverse out in front of us, full broadside. We would have had a much better opportunity to get a better looking shot. Instead, I used the auto aim, thinking, okay, I'll get one shot now, and I'll get another shot in a moment. But we go ahead and switch back over to the HE just in case. And we get a solid result out of the AP, but it could have been better. We did shatter 4 rounds because we aimed a little too low. But overall, not a bad shot. And then, of course, he's now reversing in front of us. We've got the HE loaded. We're going to be able to punish him some more and probably set a fire here. And sure enough, we got a fire. And we absolutely railed him with HE. 6 full pins with the HE. And that's what you get out of this thing. Now, this Mass actually does some pretty fantastic maneuvering. He dodges the torpedoes in reverse, and then he's going to start changing course to go forward, which is going to allow him to dodge the next set of torps from the Hayate. Hayate has managed to lose all of his health. We get a shot out on the Mass there that just didn't go anywhere. And you will get salvos like that occasionally. Anytime you have quad guns, you're going to get some troll salvos. But for the most part, these guns are pretty well behaved. We take another shot into superstructure area, and this one's pretty much guaranteed to kill. Like, he's not going to survive that. So we finish him off, and we are now setting ourselves up. Now, the next thing that happens, watch the minimap. So this is something that people just don't do very well. They don't pay attention to the minimap. We got nothing else to do, so we've got all day to sit here and pay attention to the minimap. So we're looking at the Bismarck's last known location. We're like, okay, is he going to go to the left side of the island, or is he beached? He looks like he's going to beach. And then the Summers gets spotted temporarily, heading right for our Kansas, who is intercepting the Bismarck. So I ping the map to try to let the Kansas know, hey, you got a destroyer that's coming your direction, you know? That's the thought process. Just try to get their attention, because a lot of times you get into these situations as a battleship captain, you're not paying attention to the guy that's behind you coming up to torp you. You're paying attention to the guy that's in front of you who's broadside and you're trying to ruin. And the Kansas does, in fact, ruin the Bismarck. I know, shocker. Bismarck is beached full broadside in front of a Kansas. That's never going to end in your favor. But, yeah, he's going to go down. And Kansas is going to do a pretty decent job of dodging these torpedoes, though he is going to eat 1 or 2 torpedoes, and that takes all of his health away. Now, we try to sneak some shots over the top of the island here on the Summers. He's going to get out of that, no problem. We're not going to hit a shot, but again, you miss all of the shots you don't take. I would rather take a shot at a destroyer and chance it, because you never know. A lot of times, I do hit those shots. I've hit so many goofy shots long range like that that is actually pretty impressive sometimes. Because destroyer players just don't expect it. They see one guy that they're trying to torp, and you can see our Kansas has lost all of his hit points. He just took a torpedo or 2. But their Summers has decided to come back and go after our destroyer. He's clearly paying attention to his RPF. I'm assuming he has RPF, because he knows that there's somebody close to him that's coming up behind him. Now, our Hayate has played a very good game up to this point. And at this point, he knows he's a one-shot kill for the destroyer, but he's still trying to spot the destroyer for his team. And while it doesn't end up in his favor, it does allow us to get a shot. Now, unfortunately for the Hayate, it doesn't go in his favor, and I am a potato. I completely underestimate how fast this Summers can come out of a turn. Watch him. He's coming towards us. He's going to turn out, and I expected him to lose some momentum. It looked like he was slowing down a little bit. You can see a little bit of the splash coming off the bow goes down. But we do hit him with a couple of shells. We destroy a torpedo tube, but he does kill our Hayate. And now, at this point, he could just stay not spotted. But he gets himself spotted again, and this time I make sure that I lead him properly, and we're going to get the RNG needed to finish him off, taking him down with 3 full pins, and ending the game with over 165,000 damage done. It's a pretty solid result. So in the short amount of time that I've had this ship, and the few games that we've played, we've already got over two great games in this ship. 2,300 damage, or 2,300 base XP, 3 kills, second on the leaderboard. Not too shabby. So let me know what you guys think. Are you guys ready for the Marco Polo? I should be able to get a Marco Polo game today, and then I will have that for you guys tomorrow. And if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.